Oh, I see some people. Yeah. I still see my people. I see them. We're getting ready. Getting ready. Here we go.
Hi, Kim.
I see you.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hi.
Kim.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi. Good
Hello.
afternoon.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Thanks, Kim. Hi.
Way back.
Hello.
Good morning.
Morning. Morning.
Good morning.
I will keep my camera up the whole time. I know it uses a lot of bandwidth.
Not yet. I will.
Good morning.
Woo! Good morning, Renee. Get up.
No.
Kim.
Good morning, class. I'm
Good morning.
glad you decided to join.
Hello.
Good
Let's
morning.
make sure we're all on mute.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I have just muted everyone, and make sure you mute so we can get through our content. I want to welcome you. Today is grades 2 and 3, but it's really just math ideas that you can use with low performers, high performers, students at different ages. Couple of little reminders for you. Many of you asked me how come we didn't start with a song, just like I do at my workshops. So I decided to do that this morning. That was Mandisa singing Good Morning, one of my favorite songs featuring Toby Keith. I wanted to remind you of a couple of things because you're going to see some pages, and I want you to know you have access to the handout that goes with today's presentation. So one of the things to do is to go to my website, which is creativemathematics.com. I have it on the screen here. I'm pointing to an orange tab up here that says freebies. In there, it will say Zoom meeting, grades 2-3 handout, and that's what I'm using today. So I want you to feel free to rewatch this on my YouTube channel, which is Creative Mathematics, and also download the handouts. So I want you to have lots of ideas that you can use. So I decided to start today with a couple of card games, since cards are so easy for children to access, and they can actually make their own cards if they need to. Little quick reminder, mark your calendars for next Wednesday. I will be doing a Zoom session for upper grades, but in the afternoon at 2 o'clock Pacific time, I will be doing a parent session. And at that parent session, I will be teaching them some games that are easily accessible. You won't get the invite for that, but it'll go up on my YouTube channel immediately following. I'm doing it for San Bernardino County in California. So if you download the handout, and again, I'm going to ask you to trust me, you're going to see all the directions for everything I'm going to do with you today. So I want you comfortable with that. but I want you to know that I tried to pick games that were things that you didn't need the cutesy worksheet, that a child could do if they had a pencil, they had a paper at home. So we're going to start off with some card games. And the first game that I'm going to teach you is a game called Snap. And I'm going to start it with the second grade level. And honestly, the reason I love this game so much, this was taught to me years ago by Dr. Lola May, who was one of my mentors when I decided to pursue mathematics education. And the game is called Snap. Now, in your handout, you're going to have this cutesy mat, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'd rather do it where you're not doing it on a worksheet, where the child actually takes a playing card, traces around it, so you have a spot for ones, a spot for tens, a spot for hundreds, and a discard pile. So really simple game, super simple game, and I'm not sure why they love this game so much, but I think it has to do with the fact that there is some aerobic activity that goes with it. So in this game, every face card, so a jack, a queen, and a king, are zeros. Those are all zeros. The ace is a 1, and the joker, the player actually gets to make a decision about the value of that card, and I'll explain it. So in this game, we're going to do an aerobic activity with it, and it simply is 3 claps. So it's 1, 2, 3, and then a snap. On the snap, the child turns over the card and he makes a decision as to whether they would place it in the ones, the tens, the hundreds, or discard the card. Now, you can't make that decision until you hear whether our goal is to make the greatest number, the least number, or I'll give you a variety of different objectives. So depending on what you're working on with students, they have to make a decision. So we're going to do the clapping. For a 3-digit number, we would do it 4 times. Once a card is down on the mat, it cannot be moved. So I turned over a jack. Any face card is a 0. If my objective, let's start with making the greatest number possible, is to make the greatest number, then I have to think, which place do I want to place that card? And I'm going to make the choice to place it in the discard. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, snap. On the snap, we turn over a card. Oh, I'm thinking, I'm going for the greatest number. Now, how big a risk taker do I want to be? Well, I'll try it. I'm going to put it in the tens place. So that means I have 7 groups of 10 or 70. Ready? 1, 2, 3, snap. On the snap, I turn over another card. Oh, a 10 for second grade is a redraw. I'm going to show you later on what we're going to do with the 3rd grade board and a 10. So I get to redraw a card. Oh man, another 0. I'm going to place it here. Ready, class? Let's go. 1, 2, 3, snap. Can anybody figure out the psychology of doing the clapping and the snapping? I don't want a child rifling through the deck looking for a 9. So I just keep their hands busy. So turn over my, oh man. Now, if you're doing a Zoom meeting with your class, here's the amazingly cool thing. Who wants to play Beat the Teacher? I want to play Beat the Teacher. They all want to play Beat the Teacher. So I would read my number. I made the number 270. Oh, Alex, you have your hand raised. Oh, Miss Sutton, I made 665. Somebody else goes, oh, I can beat Alex. Oh, Vicki, what do you have? Oh, I have 842. Oh, I see somebody else with their hand raised. So the objective is to make the greatest number. Here's the thing. It really isn't a game, but it is practice. Now, the cool thing is you're making a decision every time you flip the cards over. So let's amp it up to the next higher level. So in your handout, you'll have the mat for the snap game to the thousands place. But remember, you're deciding based on the level you teach. I've played this game with kindergartners where in the spring we're working on 1s and 10s. So their board looks like this. Remember, a child can easily trace around those cards. They don't need the cutesy game board. I just did it for you because hopefully when we go back to school, you'll have a repertoire of things that you can use. So let's take our deck and let's play our snap game, making decisions about where we want to play the game, where we want to play the cards. I'm going to go for the least number. Uh-oh, I'm going to add a level of difficulty. Must be even. So the least number I can make, that's even. Okay, you ready? 1, 2, 3, snap. And I turn over my card. Oh man, I wonder what I should do. Risk taker, risk taker, risk taker, but maybe not so much. I'm going to put it here. Ready? 1, 2, 3, snap. Turn over a card. I'm going for the least number, but it must be even. I'm going to discard that one. Ready? 1, 2, 3, snap. Oh man, I wish I'd drawn that one first. I'm going to place it there. Ready? 1, 2, 3, snap. Oh, another 0. I think I was too anxious. Ready? 1, 2, 3, snap. And I really took a risk because this better be an even card or I'm completely out of the game. Oh, it is. Oh. Now remember, we're going for the least number that's even. So let's play Beat the Teacher one more time. So I made the number 3006. Can anybody beat me with a number less than that? So children are constantly comparing. I like this game because you can do multiples of 5 for a number, multiples of 10, because there are a lot of zeros. You can go for a number closest to, so they're doing some work with the idea of rounding. Really simple game, but I want to show you just an adaptation that really matches Common Core standards, and if you're from Texas, matches your state standards. Let's say that we played the game a second time and it needed to be the greatest number. I'm just contriving a number. And on my last draw, I draw a 10. So I wouldn't do this with second grade, but you can see the matchup here. If a child places this 10 in the tens place, it means 10 of those 10s. So what's 10 groups of 10? Oh, Miss Sutton, that would be another 100. Does that count as another 100? Yeah, it does. So when you're reading the number, this would mean 9,800 because I had 10 groups of 10, 6. So it's a way to match that Common Core standard that talks about the ability to state a number multiple different ways. I also put in your handout a version of SNAP. And again, I don't know where you are in the readiness level for decimals, but in, oh, I got a typo. I'll correct that on your handout. This should be tenths and this should be hundredths, and they're making a decimal. You might go for the decimal closest to one whole. Here's the nice thing, a decimal that is between 1/4 and 1/2, equating this to money. So don't worry about my typo. I'll correct that right at the close of our session. Here's the nice thing about Snap. You can play it for any level. It just requires a deck of cards. I also put in your handout the directions for something called Snap Follow-Up. And I want to remind you, this is from my Place Value with Pizzazz book. I put these handouts in your free download because you might not have the book at home. And this is visually showing you that you are actually using my Place Value Pocket. But remember, if they don't have this at home, a deck of playing cards could easily be used for this. So let's say the child, after they played Snap, they picked one of their numbers. Let's say they had made the number 326. They would write this. Now, again, you don't need the worksheet. You can have this done with them at a Zoom meeting. 5 things I know about my number. So I look at that number. And again, if I'm in 2nd grade, one of the things I might say is it is an even number. Another way to say that is it's a multiple of 2. I could say, trying to impress my teacher, 2/3 of the digits are even. I could say that number is less than 500. And I could say, and if you're new to this concept, don't panic about it because you're going to see some adaptations on my website for using this as a number property. I could say the digital root of this number, which is the sum of the digits. If it is a 2-digit sum, you add those digits together. So I add 3 and 2, I get 5, plus 6 is 11. 1 and 1 are the digits in 11. I add those together. This number has a digital root of 2. So I'm just asking them to share with me any number property that they can about one of the numbers. Rearrange the digits to make the smallest number. So I'm looking at rearranging that. I think the least number I could make is 236. The greatest number I can make is 632. Even number could be the number itself, or I could rearrange it to make an even number, an odd number, a number less than 200. So I just gave you some follow-up for them to do about their number. I think this adds to a number talk because it gets them talking about the properties of the numbers. Also, in your handout, you will see that there is the follow-up with a 4-digit number. Oops, that's the 3-digit, sorry. Try to make these videos perfect and they are far from it. So Snap follow-up with a 4-digit number. Push them to get more properties of numbers in their description, whether they're telling you as a one-to-one or you're talking about it as a class. That's the Snap follow-up game. I also included in your handout the pattern stick game. because I want to go back to some of those basics. If you watch my beginning Zoom meeting, one of the things I talked about is focusing in on improving place value and improving fact fluency during this very odd time. So I'm going to teach you a few things about the pattern sticks. If you're new to my classes, and an awful lot of you are, the master for these is on my website in the free section. These sticks, and again, our book for this week was the book Double the Ducks, and I went through some activities and posted those on my YouTube channel for doubling. These sticks are tools for students to use. If you have not made the connection to the color of these sticks are the same colors as the dots on my number line. So hopefully your students have seen those sticks and have seen the number line with the colored dots. Oftentimes people will say to me, where do you get your ideas for some of these things? And this one, I just want to remind you, especially for my folks that are new to my classes, this is not that profound if you think about it. There's a multiplication table through times 12. If you look, I'm highlighting the multiples of 2 or the times 2 row. This is the same as the 2 stick. So every one of these sticks is just a single row on a multiplication table. And if you've been at classes with me before, you've certainly seen that. But I was overwhelming my students, trying to get them to know their multiplication facts. And I, quite frankly, got very frustrated. I would give them a table, but low-performing students look at that table and go, oh my gosh, that is so much to know. But I just simply cut those into strips. So let's take our 2 stick. Now, if a child does not have this at home, could they write the numbers 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24? Sure, they don't need that fancy red stick. They can just write those numbers. So the sticks are the multiples. Let me remind you, because I put some ideas up yesterday using the 2 stick. This 2 stick is for addition doubles. It is for skip counting by multiples of 2. It's for groups of 2, and it's for times 2. So let's warm up. If you yourself are following this along, you can either write the numbers that are on the 2 stick, or quite honestly, you can think about it. But let's warm up with a quick drill before we learn a game. And class, I'm just a little bit tired today. I haven't been sleeping that great. Oh, it's okay, Miss Sutton. We'll listen to Mr. Brown call out the numbers. So I'm going to use my friend Ron Brown, and I'm going to use my random number CD. Remember, all of these are digital downloads on my website. So the child has those numbers. I'm going to turn on the random number CD. If you have this on your computer, you have permission to put it on your Google Classroom or whatever format you use. So whatever number you hear, it is that many groups of 2. Watch how I'm not writing, but I'm proving I know my 2s. So here we go, class.
Let's do it.
Oh, I love this song.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You ready?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
5 groups of 2.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
1 group of 2. have 2. We said let's dance with our heads. 3 groups have 2. 6 groups of 2. Now, I'm not naive, people. There are children where they would need much more practice to be able to do that. So one way you can use these sticks, very powerful, is place the 1 stick over the 2 stick. I call this a tracking tool. So if a child is using the 1 stick, they're telling me visually, we don't have to have a conversation, but they're telling me they're not quite comfortable with their 2s. So this time, watch what's going to happen to the low performing child here.
6.
Track over to the 6, it's above the 12.
2.
2 groups up 2 is 4.
2.
2 groups of 2 is 4.
7.
7 groups of 2. Now here's the beauty of this. I modeled that using my 2 stick, but let's say that Amanda in my class is already working on her 8s. She can use her 8 stick, same task. So you could individualize your practice within your Zoom meeting or whatever vehicle you're using. Watch Amanda.
2. 3. 10. 12.
Whoa, that's a tough one, but I see it. So that's just a warm up. I wanted to include that because so many of you commented that you have that random number CD. Are you allowed to put it on your Google Classroom? Of course you are. It's a great way to build that practice. Here's the nice thing. That was warm up. So I say to students for 10 days, we're just working on these 12 facts. But I want to shake this up, so to speak, and play a game with them. So in your directions, you will download the pattern stick game. Remember, it is a game that can be played on any one of your sticks. So if I happen to be having a Zoom meeting with my high group, they might be practicing on 1 stick while my low students are practicing on a different stick. This is going to require 2 dice, but you can use playing cards. Remember, they're not going to have those fancy dice at home, but let's say that I am playing this with 2 dice that I found in my Monopoly game. So the pattern stick game is played with a pattern stick, 2 dice, 2 regular dice, and something to use counters. Again, I'm not expecting students to use fancy counters. Here's the nice thing. You can actually put, I don't know, pennies on this. I modeled that for the K1 session. There's something in a home that can be used as a counter. It could be food, it could be pennies, it could be buttons, but something they can use on their pattern stick. So I like this game because it's always going to practice 2 or 3 operations and your ability to make a decision. So when it's your turn, you roll 2 regular dice. Now, my first decision is, do I want to add the two numbers together, or do I want to do the difference between these two numbers? Children's natural inclination in this game is to add. So it's perfectly fine. You'll see why they get forced into subtraction. So I say, maybe I'm playing this with my little brother, maybe I'm playing it with my dog. I say 5 plus 1 is 6. I'm looking for a reaction, and I modeled this before. Thumbs up from your game playing partner means you agree with that equation. Thumb horizontal means you're not sure of that equation, and thumbs down means you disagree with that equation. So my partner said they agreed that 5 and 1 is 6. Now, I'm going to give you the verbiage for two different grade 2.
Yeah.
Background noise, and I keep muting people here. There we go. Here's the thing. I would say 6 groups of 2. Why do I say groups of 2? Because I'm playing on the 2 stick. If I'm Amanda and I'm playing on the 8 stick, I would say groups of 8. So here's the nice thing. I say 6 groups of 2 is 12. I put my chip or my button on 12. I'm trying to be the first one to cover up all the numbers on my 2 stick. So my partner plays, they cover up theirs. I roll my dice. Ooh, perfect example. 4 and 2 makes 6. Here's the thing about that. I already covered up 6 groups of 2. So I'm trying to be the first one to cover up all my numbers on my 2 stick. So I say the difference between 4 and 2 is 2. 2 groups of 2 is 4. So I'm using my option of subtracting. So every time they roll, they're deciding whether they add or they do the difference between. Really simple game, people. I put it in there as a reminder. Once you play this game, you know how to play it on any stick. So again, you don't need the sticks. They would simply write the multiples of 2 up to 12 groups of 2. My expectation is a 3rd grader would roll, get the sum or difference, and then say times 2. So we're transitioning into multiplication. Also, in your handout, I wanted to remind you of something that I think gets very little acclaim. It's in my dynamic dice book. And again, I gave you the data sheets, not that the children need data sheets, because they could simply draw 2 line segments, put a less than, an equal to, and a greater than symbol down. So you really don't need the data sheet, but I like this because they're rolling an equation, and I put the icon for the double dice, but you most certainly can use playing cards. So you'll see me show a different form of this in a second. So let me just model with addition, and then I'll model with multiplication. So if I roll 2 regular dice, what's the least sum I could roll? And I'm just asking them these questions. 2, what's the greatest sum? 12. So again, I don't care what number you put in here, but let's say we put in the number 8. This would be less than 8. This would be greater than 8. So that's the addition form of it. The child rolls. 5 and 1 is 6. That sum is less than 8. So they would record that equation in that column. Don't overthink this, people. I'm just giving them a reference point. Now, the nice thing about this is you're just revisiting those comparisons of less than, equal to, greater than. I also wanted you to know that this can be done with any operation. So let's say I'm rolling 2 dice, but instead of adding, I'm multiplying. So what's the least product you could get? It would be 1. What's the greatest product? Again, not for me to answer to children to elicit their response to that. The greatest product would be 36 if I'm using 2 regular dice. So let's pick a number between 1 and 36, and I'm just going to target 20 here. This time you're rolling 2 dice and you're multiplying. So 5 times 2 is 10. That product is less than 20. They're simply rolling and sorting their equations. Ooh, 6 multiplied by 3 is 18, still less than 20. Now, you could say to yourself, how do you win this game? I don't know. You just roll till you've rolled 100 times. Miss Stein, that seems like a lot. Well, how about only do 25? It's practice. Why do they agree to do this? It's that 4-letter word of game, people, and the other 4-letter word of dice. Simple, simple game. I also wanted you to be aware, I'm going to do one of our read alouds, not next week. Next week, we're going to do a new book called Counting Sheep. And then the following week, I'm going to do some fraction activities with every grade level. I love this with students, again, who are ready to deal with fractions. Let's say you're rolling 2 dice, and I don't know, I don't have these fancy dice at home. Maybe I have a red and the white die. And I make this column equaling 1 whole, and I can write that way. This is less than 1 whole. This is greater than 1 whole. So let's say the white die is the numerator, the red die is the denominator. So I rolled 3 6. That is less than 1 whole. So now I'm sorting those as a fraction. So that's just some really simple practice. Remember, they do not need those data sheets. You can simply draw that. It doesn't have to be fancy, but then they're doing comparisons. If you use 2 playing cards, you increase the range rather than with 2 dice where you're only dealing with add-ins or factors up to 6, but that might be all they have at home. I also put in your handout, I put some other playing card games. I'm not going to play them with you. I just put them in as reminders. The reason I'm not going to play them with you this morning is because they are in the YouTube video that I did last week for K1. One of them is called Take 2 for 10, which practices addition combinations that make a sum of 10. And the other one is called Dueling Facts. So just read about those, they're in there. If you don't remember how to play them, go to the YouTube video for last week. I'm gonna show you a really fun, rowdy card game, and I'm gonna call for my shelter-in-place assistance for this game. I'm going to use, and you'll be able to see Josh, my wonderful Josh, who works at Creative Mathematics, who is also my very handsome nephew. And then behind the scene, who's not in front of the camera, but she's welcome to join the camera if she'd like. No, she says no, she doesn't want to, is my wonderful daughter, the author, Hallie Elizabeth. And so I'm trying to make my screen a little bit bigger. What am I doing wrong, guys? What did I just do? Everybody patiently take a breath. I want to go off the document camera for this and the dots. Thank you, Josh. Boy, am I learning here. No, that's hiding self view. Everybody be patient. Oh, stop share, maybe. There we go. Now let me go to mine. There I am. Okay, Josh is in here with me, and this game is pretty wild. I call it addition. Oh, that was wild. It's called Addition Showdown or Multiplication Showdown. That was bad, Josh. Okay, so we're gonna play. Josh is gonna move a little bit closer here. Might have to sit down. We'll do it wild. Here's how you play this game. You draw a card and your partner draws a card. So he's not gonna look at his card, and I'm not going to look at my card. And I'm going to put it on my forehead, so the directions will tell you that. All I can see is his card, and all he can see is my card. This is such a fun game, but it gets really wild. Now, our third player, Hallie Elizabeth, is going to say the sum of these two cards. Josh is trying to be the first one to say what his add end is. I'm trying to be the first one to say what my add end is. And in this card game, Jack is 11, Queen is 12, and King is 13. Ace is 1, and Joker is 20. I know. Okay, ready, ready.
Can they see both of your cards? I'm not gonna look. 16.
Okay, I'm not sure who won that. It might have been a tie. Okay, Josh is gonna draw. We're not gonna look in the screen because we can see it. Okay, Hallie, sum.
10.
7. Now what we're practicing is missing add-in. I hope you probably muted me by this time because I'm so loud. Okay, one more time. This time Hallie is gonna call out the product. So she has to multiply. We're identifying factors.
Okay, hold on.
Reboot. She's doing her multiplication facts.
117.
Redraw.
Oh no. Oh no.
Okay,
No.
redraw.
72.
Sorry, we're having more fun than you are. I can see some of your faces and you don't look that excited. All right, that is the wonderful addition showdown and multiplication showdown. I have to admit, I learned that game in college, and I hate to say this out loud, but it was a drinking game, but you still were practicing your facts. So don't tell your students that. That is not something they should hear. I also put in your handout a game that I love, and I have taught this, so I'm gonna put it back on the screen so that you can see my document camera. I have taught this game a lot in workshops, and it's the famous game called Red, White, and Blue. One of the things I've been working on is more activities that go with my triple dice. Please understand, in these times, we're not expecting them to have these fancy dice. So in this game, you just have to find 3 dice. Now, again, what if you can't find a red die or a blue die? Doesn't really matter, people. You can designate any color to be hundreds, tens, and ones. So they roll. In this game, red is 100, white is tens, and blue is ones. So I rolled 315. So the way the data sheet is set up, they are actually rolling. I rolled 113. They're rolling 10 times and recording Ooh, 156. I promise you I won't roll all 10 here. 613. One more for 5. 543. Now, I like this game because it's one more way to practice number properties, and you will see a data sheet that gives you some properties. And do you see the column that says analyze? Again, they don't need the cutesy data sheet. They can write the numbers. Okay, I'm gonna say, put a check mark next to the least number you rolled. Put a star next to the greatest number you rolled. Put a square next to the even 3-digit numbers that you rolled. And that's funny, I only rolled 1. Put a triangle next to those numbers where 2/3 of the digits are odd. So if you look, this number has both a star and a triangle. So they may end up with lots of different icons in that space. Here's the thing. We have a chance to provide them with some practice opportunities. Remember, pretty easy to access dice, but I also am very aware that there may be children in my classroom who don't have access to those dice. So one of the YouTube videos on my website shows how you can build your own spinner to simulate dice, how to take scraps of paper to simulate dice. So you have a lot of options. Couple of things in closing this morning. I hope you will go to our website. Look for the freebies. They're going to be there. I'm adding to them every day. Email me. I'm more than happy to do a virtual lesson with your students or a virtual meeting with you or a group of teachers if you have some questions about some things. We are on Facebook. We are on Twitter. I'm not much of a tweeter, but whatever. Our YouTube channel is Creative Mathematics. Hopefully you got some very simple ideas that you can use. My intent is next Wednesday, we will do the 4th and 5th grade session. I am also planning next week to film how to multiply and divide fractions with 4th and 5th graders using manipulatives. So you got some things to look forward to. Remember, Tuesday, Thursdays have my place value clues, and we have a lot of those up there. You're going to end up with a whole new collection, different than my place value book. So we did a lot today. I hope you got some things you can use. As my daughter said, this is Kimmy K doing math at her kitchen table. I hope you'll join me again. Thanks for showing up, people. It was great. Shall we go out with that wonderful piece of music that we started with? Say, no, Miss Sutton. Let's go out with a different song. Shall we try a different one? Say, please, Miss Sutton.
Please.
You're good. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you very
Hands
much.
together,
Thank you
people.
so much.
Thank you, Kim.
Bye. We'll see you next week. I can't get down.
Thank you.
You're the best class ever.
Thank you.
I'll see you next
That was
week.
awesome.
Thanks, folks. Ooh, I see a raised hand. I'll stay on and
Bless
answer
you.
questions if we need to. Anybody want to raise their hand?
Yes, I did. I did.
Okay. Ask the question.
Yeah, it was just a question. You had mentioned a parent session that you were going to have next week.
Yes. Next Wednesday,
Okay.
we will be filming a live, but you won't have access to it. It's through a district. So when I finish it, so it'll be Wednesday and Thursday at 2 o'clock. At
Okay.
3 o'clock, we will post it on the YouTube channel and it'll
Okay.
remain up there. So
All right.
Wednesday is my primary session.
Mhm.
And I'm doing this for San Bernardino County in California. And parents are going to come armed with playing cards. They're going to actually play the games, some regular dice, some markers. I'll keep them busy. And then Thursday will be my upper grade session with some more advanced games. And I hope you'll view it. As soon as we finish, I'll get it up on my YouTube channel. And then share that with your parents that they can watch it.
Yeah, they will.
I want it to be a useful tool for you. So
Yes.
I'll send you out a reminder about that.
All right. Thank you so much.
No problem. Cheryl, I see you.
Bye.
Anybody else have their hand raised, a question? All right, I'll see you again from my kitchen table. Miss you guys.
Kim,
Bye.
Kim,
Ooh,
Why don't we
I
get the
see
handout?
you, Ronnie. I see you, Rebecca. There's Mark.
Kim, why don't we get your handout?
Remember, go to my website, and it's just creativemathematics.com. Go to the freebies. Give me about 20 minutes because I see I goofed and put the wrong, the decimal board is incorrect. So I'll replace that. So just go to the freebies section. It's an orange tab right on the home page of Creative Mathematics, and you can download lots of freebies.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.